Hello, everybody. This is Phil Marzolf. I will be part of your Ascender Guide team over the weekend of June 27th. And I'm going to spend about 10-15 minutes right now talking about solution benefit, this section of your workbook that you'll receive, and giving you a little bit more insight and guidance towards how to effectively work on that section of the workbook. So where are we? Oh, you've looked through problems and stakeholders and have an idea of what problem you're trying to solve and who you're trying to solve it for. And now what we want to look at is how we describe that solution or that problem, the solution to the problem you're trying to solve. Now, there's a lot of places we could go wrong here, and we're going to talk about four of them. One is that we need to understand the difference between features and benefits. Both are important, but they're very different. We need to think about the type of solution we're creating. This is maybe a new concept, so we want to talk a little bit about it and get your mind thinking about it. Understand that a solution is both a noun and a verb, and I like to go into this because this is a really important aspect for me, that we really get our head around this and understand it. And then fourth, like everything, we want to effectively communicate our value to the shareholders to make sure they understand what we're bringing them, so that when we ask for an exchange of money, we're more likely to receive it. As we look at features and benefits, the first thing to understand is that they're both important. So it's not that one's important, the other can be ignored. We need both of them. They actually view your solution from different angles, and they communicate to different groups of people. As we look at this, they're tightly coupled, features and benefits. And the easiest way to think about this is that features are the characteristics of your solution which create the benefits your stakeholders want. So features give your solution credibility. I don't think it's any joke to say if you can come in and show people that you had a battery that could propel a car for 1,000 miles without a recharge, it'll be easy to sell. Everybody would want it. You're not going to be taken credibly unless you can talk about some of the features that you're able to implement into that battery, making me believe you actually have a chance of achieving this. Benefits are how your stakeholders will describe what's desirable about your product. So as we talked about this, looking at it in different angles, designing it or creating it or making it, you think about features, but when you market it or sell it, you talk about benefits. And it's the pecking order is that stakeholders are going to be firm on benefits. They're only going to exchange money with you if the benefits you provide them is worth the exchange of that money. And it's your job to figure out the features required to make those benefits realized by your stakeholders. I've chosen 3 companies, which I think everybody here will know. I won't name them. We'll see how well we go about figuring out who they are. So the first one, the stakeholder is an online shopper. The desired benefit the shopper wants is to save time and have a more convenient experience. The benefit to me as a provider of this is higher conversion rates, more sales, and so on. So when we talk benefits, we're talking benefits to your stakeholders. And you could think of it roughly as customers. We'll talk a little bit about this on Saturday. The beneficiaries and customers are not always the same, and that creates more complications. But as a starting point, let's just think of benefits being defined from the customer point of view. All right, how do we get there? An enabling feature for this turned out to be a one-click purchase button. So we probably all know who this is now. But the idea here is no customer wanted a one-click purchase button. They wanted the savings in time and the convenience that came from it. Likewise, many companies with large advertising budgets need to effectively market and advertise products to the customers. And what they want is to increase their revenue by more efficiently allocating their advertising spend. John Wanamaker had a famous quote, "I know half of my advertising is effective, I just don't know which half." Big problem. Turned out a good solution for it was an online platform that allowed advertisers to target ads based on web users' behavior. Getting a lot of attention these days, but That's besides the point. This was very effective. That enabling feature allowed companies to target their ads very effectively and increase the efficiency of their ad dollars. And lastly, environmentally conscious and driving enthusiasts would want a environmentally friendly car that doesn't compromise on performance. They want the environmental benefits, but Prius just doesn't do it for them. What turned out to be necessary for that, a feature, a radically redesigned powertrain that did not require fossil fuel. All right, so this is a sample of how to start thinking about it. And what I'd like you to have in your mind going on is, who's your stakeholder / customer for a first order pass? What benefits do they want? What features are you bringing that allow them to realize that benefit? The third issue is what type of solution you have. And this is a bit of possibly a new concept, but we have this unfortunate tendency to treat all startups the same, or you get generic advice and it could be good for you or it could be absolutely the wrong thing for you. And in many ways, it's the leading cause of failure. Getting good advice for another type of business does you no good whatsoever. And actually, if it detracts your attention and causes you to do things that are not useful for your business, it could lead to failure. And depending on the type of solution, your strategy is going to be different. So the type of solution puts some constraints on you that you need to adhere to and plan accordingly. I like to think of this in 4 solution types and putting into a 2x2 matrix on 2 axes. So the first axis here is how easily the problem is recognized by your stakeholders. This is very much a marketing dimension. And the other is, do you need to acquire new customers, or are there existing customers that you just have to get them to realize your solution is superior? We'll call these 4 types, just going around the circle there. And an example in each one. A type 1 is a Tesla. A type 2 would be like a Lyft or an Uber. Type 3 would be an Etsy, and Microsoft back in 1985. Microsoft would never be classified as this type of company today, but when it started out, it would belong in this group. And in type 4 is Apple. So we'll go through a little bit more depth in each of these. So in the first type, you have existing customers and you have an easily recognized problem by the stakeholders. So for instance, in Tesla's case, it was, you want a great car, everybody's driving cars, that doesn't require fossil fuel. Again, this is like the obvious solution. Very often they're called no-brainers, which I find ironic because it turns out you need to have a lot of brains to do this. When everybody knows it's a good solution, everybody's trying to solve it, which means you have to be fast, you need to be innovative, you need to be R&D heavy, and you need to have IP protection. Probably not the quadrant most of us are in this cohort this weekend. The second type, like a Lyft or an Uber, easily recognizable problem that it's difficult to get around the city, but the solution before Uber and Lyft was the taxi, yellow taxi, the bus, walking. Great. What Uber and Lyft had to do is, if they had just taken the passengers who rode taxis, they would have never been big businesses, right? They had to get more people who would never think of taking a taxi to try their service. So in these types of businesses, you need to entice people to try it, and you need to hook them to come back. And that, goes a long way to explain why Lyft and Uber did what they did early on, trying to build up their customer base. Type 3, where you need new customers and problems are not recognized by stakeholders, you need incredible perseverance. Most people will think you're crazy. And the examples I used, Etsy. Nobody's walking around thinking they need pictures of the outdoors on coasters. But going through Etsy, you can get unique stuff. People can discover that these things exist and want them. Microsoft, back in 1985, the famous story there, why Microsoft became the most valuable company in the world. IBM thought Microsoft was crazy and that software had no value. So there you had the biggest company in the world at the time, IBM, not recognizing the problem that stakeholders would have in computer, having a computer operating system. And also in 1985, the PC was not nearly as widely used as it was now. So a lot of people had to get brought into being used to use personal computers, getting over the fear of technology and so on. And lastly, like Apple and Type 4, a deep understanding of use cases and desired benefits. So when 2007, when the iPhone came out, people were using cell phones. What they didn't understand was that the cell phone was more than just using it for a phone call or texting. It could be your main connection to the internet. This is a concept that takes a little time, but give it some thought, right? Where are you on this matrix? You can be in multiple spots. You could be in a variety, right? Life's not always a nice clean cut delineation of areas. You could be migrating from one place to the other. But here's one thing I want you to understand. You cannot be in none of these. If you're just generic, right? Like I make candles, people want candles. There's nothing special about my candles. You're going to get run out of business because I'll tell you who buys in that situation. They buy the generic version at Walmart. So we can't be in none of these spaces. We have to really think about where we fit. And if you're having a hard time figuring that out, this is definitely something we should talk about Saturday, because if you can't identify with one of these types, you're going to have a very difficult time getting your business forward. A key job, I like to say, of an entrepreneur is a bridge builder. And that bridge is taking your stakeholders from the land of problems to the land of benefits. So what I'd like you to be thinking about as you go through the material is just the following question. If not for your solution, stakeholders would have a difficult or impossible time of realizing desired benefits. Can you formulate that for your business idea? If you can, you're in very good shape. If you can't, that's why we have Saturday. We have some work to do. Now, as I said, a solution is both a noun and a verb. This is a picture of a bridge. It's a beautiful bridge, but it's highly ineffective because nobody's using it, right? Now, if we look at this same bridge, different point of view, but the same bridge, different day, it's highly effective because there's tons of people on it. And the point I want you to understand is the following. Regardless of the beauty of your solution, it is only effective if stakeholders use it to realize benefits. One of the areas a lot of people struggle with is they get a good idea. It's technically beautiful. It's beautifully, aesthetically beautiful, but people can't get a hold of it. People can't use it. People can't put it in their living room. Getting it from your idea and your company into your customers' living rooms or hands is very important. And this is what we want. Verbs are action, and we want our stakeholders to take action and realize the benefits of our solution. And then the last point is, how do we communicate our value? And we'll come back to our canvas here very briefly. And really the essence of a value proposition is right there for us. If we combine the top section where we looked at problems and stakeholders with the solution benefits, thinking about that bridge concept, we have a very nice way to communicate our value. For stakeholders who struggle with this problem, our solution realizes these benefits. Now you could juice that up, you can make it fancier, but that's the essence of it, right? Those four things hit your value proposition. Later on, when you put the value proposition in the context of competition and how you're different, you have a positioning statement. So this very simple canvas actually gives us a lot of power to think very clearly about some important concepts about our business. So for the bootcamp, you'll have a table to fill out on slide 5 for your situation. You could determine what type of solution you have on slides 7 and 8. And what we want to get out of that too is, once you find out where you are, what are the critical skills you need to be successful in? What do you have? What don't you have? If there is a critical skill you need and you don't have, they call that a gap. And part of our work together is going to be figuring out, identifying those gaps and figuring out how to fill them. Going back to slide 9, we want you to describe how your stakeholders will realize benefits without your solution. Because if they have a way to realize it without your solution, you have a big hurdle because you're competing against the status quo, and that's not good. And then how will your stakeholders use your solution so that they realize the benefits? Remember, we want the verb. How will they use it? What's the action they'll take? And then lastly, just given that little example we did on slide 11, just write out your value proposition, and we'll use this as a starting point for Saturday. Last thing I wanted to mention about is the mindset you should come with on Saturday. So first thing to understand, Saturday is for you, so come prepared. Don't let this opportunity go by wasted. We're here for you. This is probably one of the best opportunities you're going to get to go deep into your business and area of concerns. So come be ready. Spend some time prior to Saturday developing your learning objectives for the weekend. Pick out 1 to 3 things that if you understood them better during the Saturday event, you would make you more confident running your business. Write those down and come ready to figure out ways that you're going to get those achieved during Saturday. And then lastly, come ready to learn. Don't worry about trying to impress. This is the time to make mistakes. This is a time to explain that you don't know something and really struggle through trying to find out answers to difficult questions. So that's it. That's a short overview. I'm looking forward to seeing you on June 27th, and I want you guys to come with your A game. I'm going to be flying out for this, and I look forward to meeting you, and I'm going to bring my A game. So let's get ready and make this a good time. All right, guys, take care.